have a guest that we don't have. Oh, just. Yay, I'm finally. Oh, it did. Hello, Stephen, if you can hear us, we're starting the meeting in 2 more minutes. I can't start early. Okay. And we're being recorded. You know what? It's Steve Wallace. Just in case. Students. Should we just record to this computer? Well, it appears that our settings have been changed again to eliminate recording. Oh no. Okay, but we're still on YouTube? We're on YouTube. And it's not still recording. Hi, Steve Wallace and Stephen. We're starting the meeting still in 1 or 2 more minutes because I'm trying to do something. There we go. Okay.
Hello, good evening. Thank you, ladies, for having me tonight. And unfortunately, I cannot be on camera right now due to the background.
Okay, and that's okay. It's fine. And that would be Stephen Richard who just said that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll take the opportunity then to say it's 7:30 p.m. This is the environmental committee meeting monthly, and welcome everyone. We're still expecting a couple more people. So calling this meeting to order. I will review the agenda in a minute, but I'd love to have people introduce themselves.
Starting with us.
With us, okay. So I'm Elizabeth Fenner, the de facto
or the actual
chair of this committee that limps along since COVID, but we're hanging tough. So, and then to my right,
I'm Laura Myers, and I'd be the de facto Zoom host, and helper.
Yay!
Of this committee. But anyway, my name is Laura Myers. I'm the vice president of UNNC, and I live in Angeles Vista. Elizabeth lives here in the Avenues, and we have other stakeholder participants online. So we should start with Steve Richard, and you have Stephen Richard, but you have a ... So maybe you have a last name that's not Richard. If you want to tell us who you are and introduce yourself, please, and then we'll go to Steve Wallace.
Yes, thank you for having me. And my name is Stephen Richard. The abbreviations of URU, that is my company, and it stands for Ultimate Restoration Unlimited. And we are a community center in South Los Angeles in the USC area.
Are you in the building that is next door to True Value?
Yes.
Yes. I think I've seen your signage up there, or I get emails from you.
Okay, awesome.
Recognize the address.
There we go. We neighbors.
Yeah. Well, it's an awesome location because you've got the wonderful True Value family right there, and you've got a great Indian restaurant right across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, really tasteful food.
Wonderful.
And in general public comments, you could tell us a little more about your company, but in the meantime, we'll have Steve Wallace and then Christy, who's just arrived, to introduce himself.
Yes, sound great. Thank you.
If Steve's with us.
Yeah, I'm here. Steve Wallace in Harvard Heights.
Thank you. Oh, Christy just disappeared.
Yeah. What brings you to us tonight? And can you tell us all
Well,
about
that'd be under general public comments.
introductions?
Oh, well, sure. You can introduce yourself, or if you have a longer thing to say, do it under general public comments. Or nothing at all.
Okay, let's review the agenda then. Christy's back. So first we'll take general public comments, then we're going to go to Electrify LA. We have a presentation.
They've changed, they just did an update here on Zoom. So they've changed a little bit of how we do this stuff.
So yeah, so you should see the agenda on the screen now. So item number 3 is taking steps towards electrifying LA. This is incentives, initiatives designed. And then number 4, LA Comprehensive Plastics Reduction Program. Then we'll have an update on current environmental issues, announcements, new business, old business, and we'll adjourn probably by 8:30. So any general public comments?
Christy's here.
Hi, Christy.
Hi.
Would you introduce yourself?
Christy Webb. I live on 4th Avenue in West Adams. Hi.
All right, general public comments is open. Anyone want to start?
Well, this would be Stephen Richard, where you tell us a little more about your company, if you would like.
Yes. So like I mentioned earlier, we are a community center where it's a one-stop shop where community members will come in, get service and like resources as far as employment, mental health, food service, hygiene, things like that. So a lot of variety of resources that we hold in-house that we try to help the community and directing them on pinpointing meeting their needs and whatever they need, and come in and helping them to understand who we are and what is our mission. So therefore I have a community center, and also I have an environmental service. So that what kind of caught my interest in this meeting tonight about the environmental service, and the things that you guys do and things we do kind of aligns, because we are trying to help the community with beautifying our surroundings, and making sure the air quality is not as bad, of helping cleaning the trash around the communities and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, Elizabeth is often saying, let's get a cleanup together. You're often saying that.
Yeah.
But then it's really hard. It's just really hard to do that.
Yeah. But wonderful. It does sound like our efforts dovetail for sure. And so I look forward to talking about that more in pointedly, maybe at number 5, at updates and issues.
And do you have a website? I think you do. I know you somehow I'm on your email list, but then again, I'm on 200 people's email lists. So yes. I've only ever skimmed your emails, but do you have a website that we could explore? And, maybe Elizabeth and I can talk with you at some point about creating an agenda item about one of your projects. Not tonight, obviously, but
yes, I do have a website. It's URU Los Angeles.org.
Beautiful. Okay.
So URU Los Angeles. I just threw that into the chat. And if you can see the chat, you can tell me if I did it right.
Yes, that's correct.
Perfect.
All right, any other public announcements, public comments?
Let's see, public announcements. Well, it doesn't really relate to the environmental committee, but not this weekend, but next weekend, Saturday the 19th, is the Taste of Soul, which is a big deal event on Crenshaw Boulevard that I have never gone to, admittedly, nor am I going this year. But UNNC and other neighborhood councils do have booths under the big tents that are associated with the council offices. So this is a general announcement, a good place to get information about neighborhood councils and as well what the council offices are doing up to these days. And the reason I'm not going is because same day, same time, also not related to the environmental committee, is the USC Archives Bazaar. Or I should say at USC, it's really LA's subject, Archives Bazaar, which is so many different historical societies and archives get together at Doheny Library.
I thought you were gonna say books.
No, it's not USC's event. USC hosts the event, but it's it's a consortium called LA's subject. Okay, so we can move on.
Regarding our committee, this is the kind of event, any event in our area, it gets my antenna going. Because I think, how can we help those organizations do something like a zero waste or a reduced waste?
Oh, right.
How can we help vendors provide, compostable dishware? How can we help provide a green bin to put the compostable dishware after people are done with it? Are they thinking about that? And often, in venues, when they're putting on an event, the 1,000 things that they have to think about are all consuming, and sustainability often falls to the wayside. So I'd like this committee to be able to sort of help to advise people, because what I have more than anything else is information about what's possible to do and what I've seen done at various, and how it's not that difficult and how it's very satisfying, and event participants often, or attendees often, really appreciate those things, the movement toward.
Well, I mean, obviously for events of any sort, the big deal is water. And most often we see the water bottles.
Yes.
LA City, for some of its events, they're bringing out water, but then that's a pain in their whats. And I'm not sure that it's effective, but when it's water bottles, there's not a real good way to make sure the water bottles are going to recycling. And we don't even know if they're really recycled, but then we'll have that discussion separately.
Right. So the idea of getting people into the habit,
right.
I don't want to, get too consumed or go into the weeds on this, but that's my general comment. Okay. Is when events happen, how can the sustainability committee help?
Right.
Anyway, Steve, did you have any, Steve Wallace, did you have any comments or general?
We're just waiting for the item that we're here for.
Yep, nothing, thanks.
Okay, and Christy, I think you want to talk about, you want to talk about that great nature center that you go to. And Kenneth, that's part of Kennethon Park.
But she's about to cough.
You're muted.
I'm sorry, I have something in my throat, but yes, I didn't really plan to talk about it, but it's a great place, Stoneview Nature Center. They do a lot of programs for kids, and it's opposite. It's across from Kennethon Recreation Area, across La Cienega, but the bridge, there's a walking bridge that connects now and goes all the way out to Playa del Rey, and it's a big, the long trail from Kennethon. But Stoneview Nature Center is wonderful, and they have so many programs for children and nature programs, reading, and other community events for adults. I think they have yoga, they have many things. It's a very nice place.
Christy took me there 2 weeks ago. We
I
went
think-
for a and
Mhm.
it was yet again another place in Los Angeles where I said, this exists. Like this is LA is so rich, and that's a rich place that's amazing and people should go to. I saw Congresswoman Senator Sydney Kamlager Duff speak some months ago. Anyway,
Okay,
moving on.
moving on to agenda item number 3, taking steps towards electrifying LA. So I am going to attempt to share a web page. Let's see if this works. And this may or may not work well, you guys, but I'm going to try. Okay, so Elizabeth is UNNC's rep, I guess, to the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance. But just being the rep, it hardly explains what they do because they have so many different aspects.
Yeah.
But I know that you've been very interested in this aspect, which is the Electrify LA. I don't, so, on the agenda, you saw that next Thursday, they are co-sponsoring an actual event called Electrify My Home, but it's a Zoom event. But in the meantime, we have on our agenda sort of starting the conversation about it. And I wouldn't even really know where to begin. I guess where to begin might be how to electrify, with the induction stuff. So you can help me out here. I'm just kind of dancing. I'm just kind of dancing along, but the website, which is on this website, which is on your agenda, is their sort of the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance. So you see ncsa.la. This is the sub page for Electrify LA, and they have sort of a resources. So I can talk us through this, and then you can talk us through the practical reality because you've started doing this, right? So one of the resources is another website called switchison.org. And then another resource is a sub page of that, switchison.cleanenergyconnection.org. And that's how to find a contractor. And again, this is all on their webpage. And please let us know if you can't see what we're showing you. Are you seeing the webpage?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, because I'm looking in the wrong place, actually. And then there's another one called Quit Carbon and the South Coast Management AQMD's Go Zero Pilot Incentive for Zero Emission Appliances, which is expected to begin in January of 2025. LADWP is setting up more incentives. And basically, because of the Inflation Reduction Act, there's going to be more access to more substantial rebates. And then I will tell you, I'm not going to click to it from here, but there's this great article. It says it's a great article, and it is a great article from the New York Times. So Elizabeth, I'm going to turn this conversation back to you and trying to figure out why I can't see anything. So I'm going to undo the share because I think there we are, bring back
Marius joined us.
Marius sort of is here, but I don't see him. Anyway, so what have you've done? You've actually had a video made of what you've done.
Oh yeah, well that was recycling.
Oh, that was recycling.
Okay, but that's a different subject. So I have replaced my gas dryer to an electric dryer. So I've walked that. That was challenging because you have to put in a 220 outlet. I got it permitted. The people who installed it thought that because it was electric, it didn't need to be vented. So that was an interesting conversation where I was like, oh, there's no vent, you don't need a vent. But the whole room is filling with steam, but you don't need a vent. And I like had to look it up and like, no, it's a vent. So they had to come out and break full of vents. And then I also, some years ago, got an electric water heater, which again, you just have to have a good electrician in to put that in. I regret nothing.
Does an electric water heater also need a 220, if you know?
I think it was directly, it didn't have a plug, it was directly connected.
Oh.
I think,
Okay, so.
yeah. It was a while ago now. But so the point for me is that, yes, it's a good idea to do this. The best thing to do is, in my opinion, is to plan for it now. Because none of us want our hot water heater to go out, but someday it's going to go out. So you just have a plan in place so that you're mentally ready for it. Because if you don't have a plan in place for whatever it is you're going to do, then you're more likely to put in what you had before, and your contractor may well tell you, oh, don't you want to put in what you just had before? It's so much easier. And you lean that way because it's so easy and quick and it's relatively cheap. And it's so, I would love to have events where we simply get together and everybody talks about what their plan would be, were they to put in an induction stove, so that they're not shocked by price, they're not shocked by things like the different cooking elements and the different pots you have to have. The biggest thing with the heat pump water heater was the noise for me. There's a little bit of a noise. I had to get used to it.
And is that inside or outside your
That's in my
house?
basement, so I can hear it through the basement door. I know when it works, and I'm always sad that I can't make it work during the day when I don't know how to do this, where it make it work during the day so that the solar panels are charging it instead of in the middle of the night. So that's it.
Well,
Electrify is good. Everybody has to find their own way to electrify, their own comfort level for electrifying.
well, it's interesting because we went to UNNC, Elizabeth and I both went on Zoom to an NCSA meeting, I don't know, about 6 months ago, where there was a presentation on portable stovetop induction ranges where you just plop them on top of your existing counter, really, or on top of your stove. You want to slowly start out by not using the gas burners, but not throwing away your oven. There's, you can get a portable. And in fact, during Amazon Prime days, last 2 days, I did not do this because I thought, do I really need it? But they had on sale a single burner induction cooktop for like $99. And regular, I don't know, but I didn't buy it because then they said, because you need to have a small pot. I mean, it was very complicated. And I don't know the answer as to, do you need a 220 or just a regular outlet for it? But there are ways to start this. And the idea is in part health. I like gas cooking, but it's the constant breathing in of gas fumes that is one of the issues and one of the reasons why California is encouraging electrifying everything. I will say that David and I just completed a restoration, rehab restoration project. And we did buy a gas stove, but we prepared for the future. So behind the gas stove is also a 220 electric outlet, because we assume the next stove is likely to have to be electric. So, we did a lot of that pre-planning where we have electrical options, even though we bought a gas appliance here and there. So, I don't know. So we should open up for discussion.
Yeah.
Anybody else starting the journey towards electricity?
Well, I've been talking for a long time and talking with Elizabeth about replacing the gas stove. But I've been sort of deterred by the cost of a whole big unit. And it's interesting that you said, Laura, about having the induction units that you can just put on the
On
top of
top.
the gas stove. And the other thing about the gas stove is that in the Craftsman house, it's an antique
Yes.
looking stove, and you lose that appearance, I think, unless they're making something that looks like a, kind of old-fashioned stove, but they probably aren't yet.
Well,
And-
they're not making an induction cooktop that looks like an old fashioned,
Right.
but the brand. I want to say classic something. I mean, I can give you the brand. There is a kitchen appliance brand that is very retro. And while we bought gas, I mean, they have refrigerators, dishwashers, stoves, and we bought a gas stove, but they do have them in electric, but not induction. Not induction.
Yeah.
So you want to explain the difference between plain old ordinary electric and induction?
I think someone else could probably do a better job than me in that.
Not me.
I just know that the side of the bottom of the wok was heating whatever it was. I was cooking very, very nicely. And I wondered, hi Mars, and I wondered how hot the edges were. Because when I'm cooking with gas, the whole wok is burning hot, right? So I just touched the side of the wok, the top of the wok right there. And it was cool.
Right.
So it was like, wow, really, truly, the only thing that gets hot is where it touches, where the metal touches the induction port. So I'm very happy. Marius.
Yeah.
Yeah, the induction cooktop has a special coil in it, and all it does is uses the magic of science, where the magnetism between the coil and the pot vibrates it to create heat. But the old school electric ones, it has a heating element that actually heats the pot directly. So when you put your hand near a heating element, obviously you're going to burn your hand. But with an induction one, because it's using the power of science, you put your hand next to it, unless your hand's metal, it won't heat up. I was at a Miele store the other day, and the salesperson, she turned on an induction cooktop, and she had a griddle spanning over two areas, and you could feel the heat over the griddle, but when you put your hand right next to it, it was cold. So it allows for that to happen. It keeps from wasting power trying to heat everything. That's basically what you're doing with gas and electricity. You're using a lot of energy to heat something and then get it hot, but the induction just puts the heat right where it goes. That's how I understand it.
Absolutely fantastic. And it heats water, it heats things so fast.
So you have,
I have a cooktop. And so I put my old stove has one of those things that folds down so it covers all the burners. So I just put my cooktop right on top of it, and that's where I cook. And it's wonderful. The only
How
thing
big is that? Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
it's probably 10 inches by 12 inches.
so it's a single,
Yeah.
it's like what I saw on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Except for I saw an even smaller one.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
The only thing is you have to make sure that your pot will hold a magnet. It's like Maria said, it's a magnet issue.
I see.
So some stainless steel, no copper, no aluminum.
Oh, you don't need to buy special pots.
Well, I don't have to use it because I have 3 or 4 pots. And cast iron is perfect,
Stainless steel, cast stainless steel or cast iron.
depending on how much iron content I think it has. The magic way is a magnet. You just take a magnet and hold it up to your pots.
I mean,
So you're saying if the magnet sticks, you can use it, and if the magnet slides off,
Yeah.
then you cannot. Got it.
I think
But I would
in
say-
terms of this committee, I think it's an interesting discussion we're having, but I think your idea of sort of having kind of some kind of educational programs or something to educate people about, because we obviously don't know everything about it, or about the availability, or whether you need different pots or not different pots.
Yeah.
And there may be other people who want to replace units.
I think we need to have a dinner.
Well, I don't think we
I
can.
know Dan Cagle has a couple of, Dan Cagle has a couple of cooktops. And just to get past the, you know, the fear of using them or the hesitance to use them. Just by seeing them at work.
Right,
Easy.
but did he replace his whole stove or just?
I
Right,
don't
because
know.
we all have historic houses and the old stoves look much better.
Yeah.
Cute things, so these become the extra cooktop. So again, the reason why one would switch to electric of either sort versus gas is just the health issue. Well, all the various issues for using gas. At the moment, that's the reason. By what year is it, if anyone can remember, that the state has said no more gas appliances can even be sold? Is it 2035? I think it's 2035. That doesn't mean you have to throw away the ones you have.
There's just no new ones out.
Right, I think there's a year date certain, I think it's 2035, where they may not be for sale. That's why, again, in our more recent project, we thinking that we might not be able to replace the stove that we just bought. And unfortunately, unlike our historical vintage appliances, new appliances seem to last about 1 month longer than the warranty. So in other words, sadly, almost every 5 years, certainly every 10 years, you have to replace them. So we were thinking we might not be able to replace it, you know, come the next time. Marius, have you totally electrified your life, or are you just also on this journey? See, I'm the first one to admit it. I've actually done nothing in my own house yet.
Well, I'm in the process of soon upgrading my electrical system. So, in this time I have a gas range. I haven't even gotten to the point of, I've just been looking around at some of the induction setups and just been kind of getting an idea of what's going on. You know, it's still very early in the process on this, in terms of people's adoption of it. So I think it's going to be a little bit of time before people become accustomed to it. I mean, we've been dealing with gas and electric stoves for what, 60, 70 years, you know, gas
Right.
years. So when you're dealing with a technology this new and one that still takes time to for people to understand it, you know, it takes a little time. So for me, I'm kind of waiting for everything to flesh out. I have a feeling this is just like when flat screen TVs first came out. They were, you know, $10,000 and everybody was like, oh my gosh, now you can go like to, you know, your average store and pick one up for like $200-300, a 50 or 60-inch screen. So I think it's just going to take time before it finally gets down to a level where we can just, you know, not even think about it and just use it, and it's not a big deal. But at this point, I do agree with you, Laura, that, you know, you have a concern that even though we've gotten used to using gas for many years, you still think about the health detriments, you know, breathing in, you know, fumes from basically an open gas burner. So yeah.
Right. Well, the other thing I think about, though, especially this week and the last couple of weeks with the hurricanes, I know we're not going to have a Hurricane Milton here in LA, but we could have earthquake Maud, or I know we don't name our earthquakes, but is how much battery backup would one need if one's house is fully electric? I mean, in other words, first of all, how much, Steve Wallace may know a better answer, 200 amp capability, you know, on our panels seems to be the current thing that people are doing for single family homes, but is that even enough to have some of these additional things? And so that'd be step one question, but also you know, a solar backup generator, something. I mean, how big of one of those things would one need, or, you know, for backup, if the only thing you have in your house and your car is electric, you know? So, and I don't know the answer, but, you know, and I know that gas generators, I don't have one of those either, but a gas generator can power up a good number of appliances, but they're so unsafe to use. I mean, people end up dying after the, yeah, after the disaster event. They end up dying a couple days later because they used a gas generator inside their house, which is like dumb, but they do it because, you know, it's cold outside, maybe, whatever. So, yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of things, but if you know, if it's a week that you're gonna be without electric, because power lines are down.
And I gotta be honest, a couple of months ago, I lost power in the house, and I was glad that I could still cook dinner on my gas stove.
Right.
So I liked having variety. I mean, I think that's nice to have, is your backup systems.
Right.
Different
Right.
technologies.
And I lost power, I mean, a lot of people lost power in the last heat wave.
Mhm.
But I had a backup that kept a little bit of my house on for 5 hours, and then it was gone. You know,
Okay.
but by then it was, you know,
Yeah.
2 in the morning, and it's like I could sleep.
Okay.
I was just worried that it wouldn't be on when I woke up. But that's what I'm saying, it's like preparing for disaster. If you're fully electric is different than preparing for disaster if you have both. But of course, a lot of us would end up turning off the gas if there's an earthquake.
Sure.
So, you know,
So,
okay.
I think just being realistic and doing what we can. And then the idea is to put something in when you get something new.
Mhm.
That's the time, and then use as little as possible in the meantime. Anybody else? Anybody else have?
Well, Steve, because you own some rental units, have you done you know, in other words, when people have tenants move out and then tenants move in, have you electrified any of the units, or do you think this is just too much for a landlord?
No, I haven't, I've not electrified anything, mainly because, hold on a second. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. I've not electrified anything because it's going to take, same conversation when we were talking about, you know, AC units for the
Right.
properties. But it's difficult because we have a DWP that it almost seems like it doesn't want to work with us on solar because I want to put solar on top of that flat roof. But it's just so complicated then to create not 10 different solar systems for a 9-unit apartment building. It's
Right.
ridiculous. And so uh, I want to have the solar. I want to eventually have heat pumps for each unit, which is going to be expensive. And then there is bringing the new power, which currently I think I'm at either 40 or 60 amps per unit, which is nothing. And
Right.
so if I'm going, and I also want to get rid of the gas stoves in there, which have little pilot lights burning all the time, and which creates heat. And so I want to go with the induction stoves. I want to go with like a convection oven or something and figure out how to do that. But I'm just looking for incentives. I've already registered for that seminar next week. But I'm just looking for incentives that will, you know, help me financially to do this, give me some incentive. So when I have somebody move out, I'm prepared to completely rewire their unit and bring more power and do things that we all want, all tenants are going to want to see. So yeah, I haven't done a thing. I'd also like to create a carport there that has solar panels on top of that as well. I mean, there's a lot that I'd like to do. It's all extremely expensive. And when I have DWP fighting me every step of the way,
Right.
you just have to throw up your hands and say, look, you want us to do this. You want us to give them AC. And you want us to, you know, add to solar power, or do you? And I'm not convinced that they do. And I think Southern California Edison and the other big power generators are the same. They say they do, but they don't really because they put up so many damn roadblocks. And in my own house, we already have solar, we've got battery backup, but DWP would not allow us to install more panels than they thought we needed. And we haven't electrified anything yet. That was just regular power consumption, and that was before we even put in a heat pump. So
Right.
it's just DWP just does not incentivize solar. And if they're not incentivizing solar, then to me, that's not incentivizing getting rid of gas.
Right. Well, they don't, at the level where you're applying for, permits or applying for, you want to do this project or that, the people at that level are not the policymakers. So I think if one were to ask much higher up the pyramid with LADWP at the policy level, they're trying to incentivize everything, but it's not working out in terms of the day-to-day, procedures. I mean, it's difficult enough, as Steve knows, just to, when you have an apartment building, just to upgrade the service from 40 or 60 to 100, forget 200 per unit. They put up all kinds of roadblocks even to do that.
Well, the other issue is like just buying excess solar power. Like let's go back to that 9 unit. So I need 10 panels. I need house power, which I have, and then I've got the 9 units. And it's much more efficient for me to have one large solar array that goes, let's say, feeds through the reverse meter for house power, and then I'm generating excess power there, and nothing changes with the other 9 units and their single meters that just flow one way because they don't have their own solar panels up on the roof. There's only one large solar array for that. So that's my microgrid that generates a lot of power, feeds into DWP, and it turns around and goes right back into those 9 units. That's a very efficient way to do it. But DWP will not pay me for that extra solar that I generate on the house power reverse meter. So I'm just giving them free power. So I'm not going to do it.
And who are you giving the free power to? LADWP or to the tenants?
LADWP, because it's reverse,
and then you get a credit
right into their lines.
Right.
Yeah, I think you get a credit on your bill,
Correct.
but
I
the
will never
credit is
use.
meaningless.
Correct.
Right? There's nothing to do with it. Yeah, I have the same thing.
Yep.
Well, you have the same thing on a single family.
Yeah, but the same thing that I don't get anything for the extra power that I create. And they told me I didn't need that many panels because of my energy use. And I was like, I'm helping,
The world.
I'm helping us reduce our fossil fuel use. So I wasn't thinking about return on investment, but now it kind of hurts. I mean, it was like $18,000 to put those in. So I know what you mean. It can't do it if it doesn't make sense. If it doesn't pay you back. But so glad you're gonna go to that event.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a really good event, and Christy mentioned that we should maybe in the future have a session with the gal who gave that presentation, single focus on the induction cooktops, portable. That was a really interesting presentation. Okay, can we move on to plastics?
Sure. So any other comments about electrification? I'm sort of motivated to have, I know some people that in Brea, they have a sustainability fair. And so they have a lot of panel discussions and they bring as many professionals into these things as possible. So if we had contractors that knew what they were doing about,
so is there any such conference in
Yes,
LA?
there should be.
Well, anywhere in LA?
Right. I mean, I think
Would Dan know?
Would Dan know? Yeah, and wouldn't I'm forgetting her name.
Well, Lisa Hart.
Lisa Hart. She would know.
So that's a question for next Thursday. Is it? Next.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next the 17th. Okay.
So all right, next is plastics reduction. I spoke about this recently in a group of people where I said, yeah, we all know now that we're eating a credit card size amount of plastic every week, is it?
What?
And yeah, somebody, yeah, said that very thing. What? I've not heard of that. And it's this tiny microscopic plastic that we get through many things. They say, don't heat something in plastic in the microwave.
Right.
If it warps, you're in trouble. But we ingest so much food that we don't see how it was prepared all the way to us. And so it's shocking and horrifying.
So is that the reason why the city is trying to reduce plastic? I don't think so. I think they're trying to reduce plastic so that it stops going to the landfill, since there's no recycling of plastics.
Okay.
Don't you? I don't think we've been talking so much about our consumption. So we have
zero waste.
okay, so Elizabeth and I are staring at, and I will put it up on the screen. The city just I'll put it on the screen and won't do it quite yet. Exit. Do something. The city has done a new motion about reducing another kind of plastics, which is for your printer, the little cartridges. There's a new resolution, an updated resolution to get rid of those, basically.
To ban
Single-use printer cartridges. And that would potentially reduce the number. Oh, can you see this on the screen? Everybody? Anybody? Okay. Hello.
So the idea is yes, I say a hearty yes to signing this. Comments?
What is that exactly?
Well,
What is a single use? I don't know
well,
what
a
that
single
means.
use is every printer cartridge that you ever stick in your printer. So
Well, that's
the blue, the yellow, and the magenta and the black, right? If
you
have
mean
that
for
kind of printer,
different colors and that kind of
the
a
different
thing.
colors. And so essentially there is such a thing as cartridges that are refillable, but you can't really use them in your HP printer or others, because the companies sell the printers for very low money because they're making money on the cartridges, on the sale of the cartridges.
Yeah.
So places like Office Depot do take in
They recycle.
they recycle the cartridges. And if you're like an Office Depot member, you even get money for that, but they max you out. So in other words, you can bring them 30, but you get money for 10 in a month.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you either.
And what happens to them when they're taken there? I mean, are they really
Well,
recycled?
I assume they really are recycled, but what they are not is recycled. They're not refilled with ink.
Right.
Right. I don't know how they're recycled, but they're not refilled with ink, because again, that would alter the financial model that the ink makers or printer makers have, particularly HP.
Well,
Right.
so at least here, single use printer cartridge, single use. So that implies that when we send it back, that they actually do refill it with they really refill it with ink, and that's worth so saying
It's worth finding out, but
It's worth finding
I don't think they do.
So I see this as cracking down on, it seems like they're knockoff. Seems like they're low quality, low price knockoff printer cartridges that people buy, because you go to Staples and you see that HP costs quite a bit of more money than something generic.
So I'm gonna basically I'm going to.
In this case, I'm not into banning things generally, but I'm into banning this for sure. I would sign this. I would support this.
Okay, I'm gonna stop the share because again, Elizabeth and I can't see you when we're sharing here. So this is just one thing, although to me it's a little surprising. It was presented by John Lee, who's the one conservative city council member.
Maybe it's anti-China.
No, I don't think.
No, maybe the knockoffs are from China.
Well, he's not trying to get rid of the knockoffs. He's trying, this is a get rid of them all.
No, the single-use printer cartridges. So you see, the use of them is growing rapidly due to an increased flow of aftermarket, new-built single-use printer cartridges that are imported from foreign
Oh,
manufacturers.
I see.
In this resolution, the city notes that single-use printer cartridges can take between 450 and 1,000 years to decompose.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then, yeah, I mean, there's more to this, obviously. I mean, if we do a
Right.
ban, we have to improve our supply chain back because
Well, we need
I-
a different kind of printer.
I don't know that we do, because I take my printer cartridges back to Staples and I get my $2 or I just get the credit, and I do that. And it seems to be,
But you still have to buy more single-use cartridges.
they're not single use if you recycle them. If you take them back and you get a credit for them, it's sort of like the glass water, the glass milk bottle, I think.
Yeah,
But
that's the
my
part.
problem, my problem is that at my school that I work, I was walking by one of the offices and they had a giant printer cartridge that they had replaced and the whole thing was in the trash. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, you know? And so I took it and I took it to the Staples. So how many people are gonna take the time that know enough that they're gonna take the time to recycle their printer cartridge?
Well, I will tell you for me, and then everybody else can answer, when Office Depot had a store here in West Adams
You did that.
every month, because I liked getting $10.
Oh, when you took 10.
Yes, well, I
You
didn't,
went
I
there.
wasn't handed $10, well, we do go through a lot of printer ink, I work in an office.
That's another question. That's another issue.
Yeah, we do, we work in real estate and we go through a lot of ink because we go through a lot of printing. And it's not possible not to do printing at this stage because of licensing requirements. We have to print, but however, they closed down all the nearby stores. I don't even think there's a Staples near here anymore, right? So I find it, now I'm balancing which makes more sense. Driving doesn't make sense, and what's not offered is in an envelope, send it off option. Anybody else recycle their ink or I mean, I haven't thrown anything away, I just
I
wait
recycle
till I go to
I have
Office Depot.
Yeah, I recycle my
toner
ink.
cartridges.
Yeah.
But
I
where do
gotta
you guys go to do it?
Say that one more time.
Where do you go to do it?
Well, I recycle mine. I have an account with Instant Ink.
Ah,
So yeah, so every time we finish using our ink, we recycle it or mail it back to them, and they will
Perfect.
return a full color ink or black ink, black and white ink back.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep, me too.
Yay. But I mean, we're the choir here, right? Isn't it? It's frustrating to pick up trash on the street, to recycle things, and then to find out that actually they hardly, that the system doesn't really recycle.
right.
Yeah.
And to try to keep one little tree alive on a street, when the business right next door doesn't seem to care. This is what's
Mhm.
really frustrating. That it's still a virtue. And not many people feel virtuous.
Right. So in addition to all of this, I mean, we wanted to make the announcement tonight that because it took several years, but the actual environmental impact report for the city's plastics reduction program was submitted to the city council, and they did approve it for what it's worth. But I do know that I can't even imagine why it took years to get an EIR approved on this program. It's crazy. So did we want to recommend to the governing board that we do a community impact statement in support of this motion?
It's not much.
It's not
effort.
much, it's not much effort to support it. I'm just saying,
I say, yeah.
yes?
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Yeah, yes, we recommend to the governing board that it The governing board, does a community impact statement in support of, I don't even see it.
Banning single-use, printer cartridges.
Printer
Aftermarket,
cartridges.
single-use, clone-compatible printer cartridges.
Yes.
How do you guys feel about that?
Anybody?
You could do the, raise your hand if you want to say yes. Or-
Do we care?
I would
I mean,
support, I would support supporting it. Yes.
yeah, supporting this motion.
Yeah, I just wonder how the city itself can do something. It sounds like, I mean, if the state said, you know, you can't ship into this state, single-use printer cartridge, I don't know how, you know, I mean, I think we all support this theoretically. I just don't know how the city could implement it. And if it would just
Well,
be.
you know what? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you, Stu.
No, that's okay. Yeah, that's just my only concern is just implementation.
Well, I have to say, as I'm reading this a couple of times, because I've got the piece of paper, I will note that the motion is that the city council requests that the city attorney and the Bureau of Sanitation prepare an ordinance, right, prohibiting the distribution and sale of aftermarket single-use, you know, clone-compatible printer cartridges. It says nothing about the city itself no longer purchasing single-use printer cartridges.
Yeah, that
Well,
makes sense.
it begs the question, does the city buy?
Well, they
single-use?
certainly used to, because at some point UNNC and West Adams Heritage partnered with the planning department on a project involving researching building permits, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And part of the partnership is that we paid for printer cartridges to give to building and safety for their machines, where you go to their public machines to print out the building permits. So I know that those machines use printer cartridges and big ass ones, not the ones we're talking about. So
But you know that those were not recycled.
I have no idea.
So,
But
yeah,
but the city also, I mean, how many city workers have how many computers which are linked to how many printers? I mean, the thing is, that would be my question.
Yeah.
Does this apply to city purchasing?
I mean, I think we could add that to our.
Right, that's
our
a question.
Community impact statement to say.
Exactly.
We strongly, you know, we urge the city to.
Start with itself.
Immediately.
Start with itself
Yeah.
and, you know, I mean, it would involve presumably changing the kind of printers that the city itself uses. If they use, and they probably do, single. Okay, well, that would be, what do you guys think?
Any objections to writing a CIS?
Because the two of us would have to write it.
And then the question is, does anybody want to see that CIS before we put it in front of the governing board? Marius.
Yes, I do agree with Steve on the situation that, how is this all gonna be implemented? Because, you'll have to be given a date sometime in the future, because a lot of these all manufacturers of, single-use cartridges, you know, this is how they make their money. It's the razor and blade. They sell you the razor, which is the printer, and then obviously they make all the money off the blades. So this is kind of how, they're gonna fight, I'm sure, this situation. I'm sure they're gonna tell everybody they're trying to take away your printers and stuff and all these kind of things.
Yeah.
But the deal here is, there has to be some way of working with the manufacturers to find out, hey, look, this is a problem. You know, we're the ones who are getting the brunt of it in our landfills and trying to figure out how to recycle this stuff. And we need your help on this. We got to figure out how to make this so that you can still make money, obviously, but yet, you know, it's not such a huge environmental impact. Similar to how the coffee makers had to, you know, work with the government on their single-use pods. They were making coffee. It was just becoming a environmental disaster. So this is a case here where, yes, we'll have to ask how this is all going to work out, so that the companies can continue to sell or somehow sell you ink, but in a more sustainable manner.
Right.
So some of these bans, it's I'm beginning to worry some of this stuff looks good, but are we actually really implementing real change that can see and say, oh, I understand, something simple they can understand, nothing complicated to it, you know?
Right. Yeah, because the economic equation is very clear. We just bought a new printer. That's ours died. So the printer the HP printer we've been using, the workhorse printer, died, but in its slow death, it started giving us an error message that we aren't allowed to use refillable cartridges, which we weren't using. So in other words, something was going wrong with its intelligence, and it was not the cartridges weren't communicating properly to whatever the baseline is. So we had to buy a new printer, just the next level up. And the printer was it was under $300, but it's a big, massive printer. I mean, it's got all the bells and whistles. It was under $300, but one set of ink is $100. Yeah, so one black, one box of set. And we do have the instant ink option, which we didn't take, but we still could. I didn't realize you could recycle direct with them, because we've been recycling with Office Depot. But that still begs the question of how they make the money. Because it'd be so much better if what we had were these cartridges and some bottles of ink that we could just keep filling ourselves. And I don't know if the ink is liquid or powder, but you know what I mean.
Mhm.
So, okay, so I think what needs to happen is we need to draft something and share it with y'all for input, because there's little things, and hopefully we'll get it done before the next governing board.
I think we can, and I also don't think it needs to be very complex.
No.
I actually wouldn't spend a whole lot of time on this, because it's this kind of thing, one little thing like printer cartridges. And the fact that people buy cheaper printer cartridges because they need the ink, and they can't believe the expense of, the pure HP. And there's like, isn't it good enough? Because that's what we've learned at the dollar store, is that you can buy a cheap version of something and it'll work fine, or apparently work fine as the expensive target. But the point is that sometimes I think that they're distracting us. They're simply trying to keep our little minds busy on something like this, when what we really should be doing is, learning to improve public transportation, right? Or something with a bigger input. Or we've just got to figure out what they're trying to distract us from. Like, why are we supposed to spend all our time on printer ink cartridges ban, which isn't necessarily even going to affect the printer cartridge ink industry, because we know that it's just going to be sold somewhere else. Whether a different name or.
All right, well, we'll look at, there must be an underlying report. So we will do something and send it out to you, everybody.
Stephen Richard.
Well,
Go for it. You have your hand up. Yeah.
I did. Yeah, about like the printer cartridges. Me personally, I haven't found no cheap price of these cartridges. They way too expensive, and the ink goes out way too fast.
yes.
So
And it's $100 per set.
Yes, and you getting one cartridge. Like, wow. I'm like, especially when you go in stores, like instant ink, they at least give you 2 cartridges, for the same amount of price that in stores.
Yeah. Right. It does seem like a racket.
So that's ridiculous.
It's definitely ridiculous. I just personally, it's because I'm using business money. It's not my money.
You're right.
So it's like I just order them because we need them, and and then when you buy a new printer, you also have the old cartridges you can no longer use.
Right.
Yeah,
because I find myself having a lot of old cartridges and just piled up.
Yeah. Right. So well, like, and wow. because again, the manufacturers of these printers, which is, there's HP is the primary one that is easy to access. There's Epson, there's others, but I'm most familiar with HP. And every year or so they come out with the next generation, but each time in their design, they use a different cartridge. So you can't take the cartridges from generation like 4600 and put it in 56 because
Right.
they designed it with a different cartridge instead of designing it with the same cartridge. Okay, so we're all whining and, you know, but what we're gonna do is draft something that's not gonna take too much time, to Elizabeth's point, that there's other bigger fish to fry, but we are concerned, our concern is with this, along with, yeah, it's really a good idea to not have these single-use cartridges pile up in landfills, support the motion. But we would like to see the city apply it
First of
to
all,
itself,
Yes.
first and foremost.
Yes.
And
And then spend some time thinking about how to make it easier for people to recycle it.
right, because maybe the city could set up some centers to
Right.
accept the cartridges.
Right.
All right, so we're gonna do that.
Right, like if every, like we have the market, right? Christy, and I have the market, it's a Superior thing, and that's in walking distance. But I love how, in Jefferson Park on down Cimarron, there's a little bodega. There's a little store, and I think it's a like 32nd or something.
Except their printed
The point
cartridges.
is that if the city could set up a pickup or a drop off at those little bodegas, that's one more customer who's walking down the street to a bodega
Oh, I see.
and then buying a half gallon of milk. And I love the fact that those exist. And I would love to see the city, if the city wants to collect these or, you know, create a better supply chain and then include those small businesses, I would think.
Okay, well, now we're creating a program. All right,
Well, to think about a program, to think about, Steve, you still have your hand up. Is there something else or?
Oh, no. Let me put my hand down. I don't even.
Okay, I just wondered,
8:35,
yeah, and my
how
son is driving into my driveway pretty soon.
okay.
Rand will have an update about current environmental sustainability issues, anybody?
If anybody has
We're doing what
anything.
we can, right?
Well, I've been noticing, this is just a yay. I've been noticing in my emails, so many more invitations to composting class, you know, learn how to compost events. So I'm really thrilled. But I'm also noticing that the communications from the sanitation department to all of our neighbors about recycling your organic waste is not happening. You know, we are still trying to explain to our tenants, not just, please don't put food down the garbage disposal because we don't like backed up, I mean, minimize the food, but you know, it's supposed to go into the green trash can. And they say, what are you talking about? And while as a landlord, yeah, we can, I mean, I think I'm gonna send out the flyer, but why isn't the city doing a better job of
Oh, I don't think
communicating this?
I don't worry about, well, I'm not gonna put it on the city, but
Well, no, they were supposed to, the Bureau of Sanitation was supposed to.
okay, that's fine. And every single, yeah, but
Diane
and every
put it
single
on
household
the
could do something about it. Also, but I'm finding that every school, every LAUSD school should have recycling programs. So all these kids are starting to build into their habits
Right.
that food goes in one place and trash goes in the other.
Right.
I need that to happen. And events.
Are they doing it?
No,
No.
they are not.
Well, your school's
My
not
school
doing
is
it.
not. And so I think, yeah, we have the garden school, great, but other schools don't. And I wanna know if every school should have the funding to have that
Right.
system. Every business should have to justify, you know, that they have a waste stream. Stephen.
Yes. Well, we speaking on. I like the conversation and the topic on, you know, teaching and educating the children in these schools on how to, you know, go about more greenery, school gardens and things like that, and teaching them about how to use compost. So what my company do, we are a environmental service. So we do various jobs around the community, as far as organizing street cleanups, managing community gardens, and doing private residential, like landscaping and things like that. So what we do is we kind of geared towards cleaning the community, more green and green infrastructures, things like that, especially at our community garden where we hold workshops. And one of our workshops is name is uh, compost with confidence. So that's geared towards educating the community and the small children on what to do with the compost at home or at the community garden, and how to use it, how to, mix it up, and it turns to this soil. So we really big on educating and outreaching and things like that in the community. So, and it's, I have a wonderful environmental service program going on.
Stephen, which community garden do you work with or through?
So right now we at the Vermont Square Community Garden.
Got it.
Yes, which is on Vermont and 46th Street. And it's two sides of the garden, a wonderful garden. It's two sides. We have an east side that we maintain and the west side of the garden we maintain.
Wow.
Nice.
So we, UNNC, have done a lot of partnering with the Garden School Foundation at their 24th Street School Garden. And it's truly a wonderful program. And there the kids are being, they're not just taught about the garden. I mean, they have a 1 acre garden, but they also have a program there called Cafeteria to Compost, which is funded by some big funders. But the kids are, they're every day in the cafeteria, they then separate before they throw away the materials that can go into the compost versus the trash. So that's awesome. A great program. I think, they have 13 schools now, but I'm not sure they do cafeteria to compost even at all the schools, because it's a major, just to get it done. That's kind of major. Yeah. And LAUSD has hundreds and hundreds of schools. So, it would be really great if they could expand that program or the concept of the program throughout LAUSD, because I can't imagine, I just don't even want to think about every cafeteria at every school, what's not getting, separated out in organic recycling. But I was just going to say, I'm getting more invitations to more composting workshops. So
yes. Yeah, we had implemented a community, a garden for a preschool in Watts at 102nd Street Early Education. We had went in and kind of like organized and structured their community garden and teaching the little ones the importance on the nature and how to harvest their own vegetables, and getting the parents involved, like to encourage the little ones, like, about the organics, the herbs where you could sample and things like that. That's not harmful plants, the invasive species and native plants. They got a full around on how the garden was set up. We went in, set the beds, put the soil, and whole workshops there. So it was really amazing.
Yeah, that's joyful.
Great.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
Chris,
I had a question about the green bin recycling or our organic waste. Do big apartment buildings or multi-unit apartment buildings, even if they're not big, are they required to do it, and how do they do it with their tenants?
They're under the state law, they would have been required, but I don't see any evidence. I mean, at the few, when you look around at the ones here that are serviced by Republic, I don't see any separate green anything coming out.
I don't either. They have one.
For our
dumpster.
little apartments, they're on the LADWP and Bureau of Sanitation. So I'm trying to get the tenants to do this. But then again, I'm trying to get, David and Ed to do it, and it's really hard. I mean,
Yeah.
people don't like the idea. I don't like the idea of saving my food scraps for the full
Right.
week and sticking it, I do it, but sticking it in the green trash cans on Sundays, because there's a bit of an ick factor with that we have to get over.
You know, that's
Yeah.
a job. It's a job somebody could have. We could.
I spend a lot of time on Sunday nights gathering all the
So I'm saying
containers that have things in.
there's just this
Yeah.
ick factor,
No,
but
there
I'm
is.
trying to do it,
Yeah,
And you can't even use those compostable bags, because apparently those compostable bags aren't compostable.
Right.
no.
No,
But
we used to
some
have people.
cities do though. It's funny.
Oh.
Sacramento does.
Okay,
They
and San Francisco.
they allow the bags. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, my point is just that, like if I have leftover, whatever, rice, I have to keep it in the refrigerator. I mean, that's okay. It's not going moldy, but I have to remember that I have this thing of rice that's got to go into the green trash can, and then the container it's been sitting in has to come back into my house, get rinsed out, and then go into the.
So I say, yeah, let's talk
Yeah,
about having.
it's a whole process.
It is.
Awful.
Definitely, and I don't want to put them in early because on top of everything else, it attracts coyotes.
Yeah.
So you don't want the
Yeah.
food out there before the last minute and put it out on the street and not in my yard. I don't want coyotes in my yard.
Right.
I gotta go. My son
Okay.
rolled
Okay.
up, and I gotta go see him.
Okay. Okay, well, that means what?
So we're gonna. Is it any last things before we adjourn?
Okay, actually, well, I can find you on your website, right, Stephen? So add you to our email list. We have a little direct email list too, so your email will be on your website, correct?
Stephen, I don't.
Stephen.
Yes.
Okay, so I will add you to our little in-house list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and please check out all the cool stuff that we do
That
on
too.
social media, our website, and visit our Instagram page. You'll see some real cool stuff there, some projects and the impact that we do set in the community.
Awesome. Thank you for what you do.
Okay.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.